I laughed when he asked if he was the best I'd ever had. His insecurity got the best of him, and in the end, he left me. I honestly never thought I'd be sharing this story, but looking back now, I can see exactly where everything went wrong. I'm Blair, 27, and this is about how I completely ruined what could have been an amazing relationship because I couldn't keep my mouth shut about something I should have just taken to my grave. It all started last summer at a rooftop bar downtown. My friend Kay had been begging me to come out because her coworker was bringing his friend group. At first, I wasn't interested. After a long week, who wants to go out, right? I was perfectly fine in my cozy apartment with a glass of wine, binge-watching the latest true crime series. But Kay insisted, saying it would be a good chance to meet new people and get some fresh air. So I gave in, having no idea that this night would end up changing everything. The moment I walked into the bar, I spotted him, Greg. I didn't know his name at the time, but there was something about him that caught my attention right away. Maybe it was the way he carried himself or the confident way he was talking to his friends. He had this laid-back yet magnetic energy that just drew people in. I found myself watching him for a moment before Kay snapped me out of it by waving me over. She introduced us, and instantly there was a connection. He was easy to talk to, charming in that unassuming way, and seemed like someone I could be comfortable around. We talked about everything: music, travel, childhood stories, and before I knew it, I found myself genuinely enjoying his company. There was something refreshing about how natural everything felt with him. I could see myself getting to know him better, maybe even more than just a casual bar night. But as the night went on, I started noticing little things. His hand would tighten around his drink when another guy came by and complimented me. When I laughed too loud at one of his jokes, I caught him glancing around, almost as if to see if anyone was looking. At first, I shrugged it off. Maybe I was just imagining it. But there was this undercurrent of doubt, a subtle insecurity I couldn't quite ignore. I tried to keep the mood light, assuming it was just something he needed to work through. He was a good guy, charming and funny, and I wasn't going to let these tiny moments ruin the fun. But it was there, lingering in the background. Then came the moment. We were sitting at the bar, drinks in hand, when he suddenly turned to me with a serious expression. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the music. "Blair, am I the best you've had?" I froze. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I never expected anything like that from him. I don't know why, but I didn't take it seriously at first. Maybe it was the way he asked, like it was some kind of joke. But there was this deep vulnerability in his eyes. I laughed, not because I thought it was funny, but because I didn't know how to handle it. I should have seen it for what it was, a cry for reassurance. Instead, I brushed it off. I mean, that's kind of a weird question, don't you think? I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood. But the moment passed quickly, and I realized I had just made it worse. He didn't laugh. The lightness faded from his face, replaced by something cold and distant. He didn't respond, just stared at me for a long time, his expression unreadable. I could feel the shift, and it made me uncomfortable. I tried to recover by changing the subject, but I could tell it was too late. He wasn't joking. He wasn't looking for a laugh. He was insecure, desperately seeking affirmation that I couldn't give him in that moment. And instead of comforting him, I had unintentionally made him feel like a joke. I saw the change in him then. The walls went up, and I wasn't sure if I could ever break them down. The rest of the night was a blur. We didn't talk much after that. The easygoing conversations we'd shared earlier were replaced by awkward silences. The next morning, I woke up to a text from him. It wasn't angry or accusatory, but the words were blunt and final. "I think we're better off not seeing each other anymore." I remember reading that message, my heart sinking into my stomach. I was confused, unsure of what to do next. Was this really happening? Did I just ruin something good over a stupid comment? I thought about texting him back, explaining myself, telling him how I didn't mean it that way. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. He'd already made up his mind. A few weeks went by, and I couldn't shake the thought of him from my mind. I kept replaying that night in my head, wondering what I could have done differently. Maybe if I hadn't laughed, or if I'd been more supportive when he needed me to be. Maybe I could have reassured him in that moment. But I didn't. And now he was gone. Then, just as I thought I was moving on, he reached out to me again. His message was brief, but it was clear. "Blair, I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I know I messed up, and I'd like to talk. I want to apologize for how things ended. I didn't know what to feel. I wasn't angry anymore, just sad." He seemed genuinely sorry. But I also knew that it wasn't just about the question anymore. It wasn't about who was the best he'd ever had. It was about something deeper: his insecurity, his need for constant validation, and my failure to address it when it first showed up. By then, though, I had already started to move on. The idea of reconnecting with him felt pointless. I realized that while he had his own flaws, I couldn't fix them for him. He was seeking something in me that I couldn't give him, something he needed to find within himself. And honestly, I didn't want to try anymore. When I didn't respond to his message, he sent one last text. "I get it. I'm sorry for how everything ended, Blair. I hope you find what you're looking for." I read it, and for a moment, I thought about reaching out. But I didn't. I couldn't. And in that silence, I found the closure I didn't even know I needed.